Okay, let's begin. It's a lot of stuff going on over here in the Sikha, so whatever connects all different types of events that took place in Parshas Korach and connects them all together to make one complete idea about how we have to give away the best to Hashem. And Korach was about Lavdavka. Everything is the same, everybody's the same. You don't necessarily have to give away the best to Hashem. But all of this is like a theme that you see throughout the Seder. That he was arguing and saying, why should Madut is Nasu Alam Hashem, where all should be Kohanim. Then there was who says that Aaron HaKohen should be the head of the Kohen Gadol. There was other Nesiim, so they put out their matos, they put out the staffs right in front of the Royal Moyed, and then the mato Aaron miraculously had overnight that it was V'yigmel Shkedim, it grew almonds. Achar ba'asipur ha'chochas nechaynusa shal konas Aaron, u'la'achar came meduber v'matnas kuna. Afterwards, he talks about the different things that the Kohanim were given by Klal Yisrael. There was Turmas, there was other things that they were given, Chazam V'shoik, etc. Inyan matnas kunahu, shemekol davar hashayach la'adam, olav lahafrish l'kohen. Anything I have. Hein me'or pnimi, in Kabbalah, or pnimi means something that is internalized. Like food by us, that's an or pnimi, that's something that comes inside of us. So we give to the Kohen, we give truma bikurim. That's mazon, that's food. Hein me'or makif, what's or makif? Something that's outside of us, like clothing. Reishis hagez, we have to give the first of what you shear from a sheep. You also have to give to the Kohen. Hakshur malbushim has to do with garments. Therefore, it's called the or makif. Pasuk mazmer is toichnu shel matnas kundam. First goes for Hashem. Hashem is considered. They're nachla, they don't have a part of Eretz Yisrael like all the other shvatim. Who is their nachla? Who is their apportioned part? That's Hashem. They're dealing with spiritual matters. The giving is really, we're giving it to Hashem. But there's a term called that the Kohanim are like sitting on God's table. They're sitting on Hashem's table, and since we are giving this to Hashem, so they eat from Hashem's table, because Hashem is considered their nach. That the Rambam learns out from this, that doesn't just mean that we give the Kohanim, it has to be the first, like Reishis Hagez and things like that. But any time we're doing a mitzvah, any time we're giving something to Hashem, we have to make sure to give from the best. You're going lahachel asaroiv, minatoiv amasim shabushulchanoi. Don't give him the things that are like you're going to throw out anyway. Lachasis arim, kisir arim v'chisisoy. There's a mitzvah to give a person clothing. So again, the Rambam says, you give him, if you're going into your closet, you give him from the best of your garments. The binyan-based tefillah, when you're building a shul, it should be even nicer than his home. It's an interesting thing, that when it comes to food, it says the best on his table. Comes to the clothing, it says the best of his clothing. When it comes to a shul, that he says it has to be nicer than his own house. That's a side thing, just an interesting point. Kakosov, that Rambam says, what's the proof of this? Kol chaylev lavaya. Chaylev means the best. Literally means the fatty, best part of the animal, but it means anything that's the best by the person he gives to Hashem. Klolis, nefesh Ho'elokis, Rambam will say for Nigla, he really deals with halacha, with mother, with things like that. Kol zois. Hichlu baz damnius rabbis remozim shel pnimius haTorah, from the secrets of the Torah. Afkan moina harambam mishloishen yom shel mozen levusha bayis. The idea that the Rambam takes it through three main categories. The category of food, he says, give the best of your food. The category of levush, give the best of your clothing to the poor person. The category of building a shul, it has to be built even better than our own house. Mashmos hadvarim hitch, Makol ha'shayach la'adam, Mzoynim, Malbushoy, Beisoy, Allah lahagdish as hareshis, Vesamufchar l'koyin, Shebenafshoy pnima. There's a person's internal koyin. And that internal koyin, I have to give the best of my food, my clothing, my house. That is my internal koyin. But Nefesh Ho'elokis Shalbeini Gam B'chinas Ani says that Hashem saves the person lahatzel ani ve'evin lahatzel evin mishoiftei nafshe. So we say that the poor person, the evin, that's Nefesh Ho'elokis, Hashem protects the Nefesh Ho'elokis, he's called like a poor person before the Nefesh Ho'elokis and the body that doesn't want to let it do what it wants to do. That's why the Yetzer Tov is called a Yeled Miskein Chacham, and the Yetzer Hara is called, in Mishle I think it is, a Melech Zaken Uksir. But we see in Miskein, that's the idea also of being poor. So the Nefesh Ho'elokis is the poor person within us. So just like the poor person outside of us, we have to give him from the best. The same thing, the poor within us, meaning the Nefesh Ho'elokis, we also have to give from the best. Kach l'gav mazon levush, ve'ilu l'gav bayis, v'tzayin harambam b'mefurish based tefillah shul Hashem. That's clear that it's talking about kedusha. When we're talking about the other cases, about food, and we're talking about clothes, it doesn't talk about kedusha openly. It talks about a poor person. But when it talks about the third category of housing, there specifically, what type of housing is he talking about? Not a homeless shelter, he's talking about a house for Hashem. So it's an open connection that the best we have to give for Hashem. L'shem ha'isnagus l'fiat pratim ha'amurim drusha ha'chana klolis v'shmesayin ha'rambam higdish davar chulum. If you donated anything, make sure it's the best. K'meshenemer kol chelev l'Hashem drusha ka'chana klolis ha'anocha she'ikiru l'Hashem v'oz kayamas ha'isnagus ha'amura b'yachas l'pratim ha'shoynim b'mozn l'vush u'bayis. In other words, the Rebbe says there needs to be, first of all, an attitude. We have to have the attitude that the best belongs to Hashem. Once we have the attitude, then we go into all the details. You have clothes, the clothes have to be for the Kohen inside of you. You have food, the food has to be for the Kohen inside of you. You have a house, the house has to be the best for Kedusha. Not just when we're talking about the Kohen that's inside of me. Shekain ne'achash is a initial matnas kundam. Hariyeshna biyachas lahen hayram min asipur be'echot shenosan meiser b'mida chusa min atzarich u'leshona haba hitzmicha sadeu rak hakam l'shoyseruya linas l'kohen. There was once a person, the Tosfos brings on this story, it's also brought down in Midrashim, that his father told him that this field of mine is a very fruitful field. It gives out a measure of 1,000 kur every year. Make sure to give meiser from it, which is to give 100 kur of it to tzedakah. The first year he did it, and the second year again. Asa b'shul shtisasher, he got 10 times as much, he got again 1,000 kur. The year after that, he got a little bit stingy. And the way Tosfos brings down the story is that he didn't give anything this year. I think in other places the story is that he started minimizing. I don't remember for sure, but the way Tosfos brings down the story is that he didn't give anything that year. And that year, instead of the field giving out 1,000 kur, so now the field only gave out 100 kur, 10% of what he usually gave. So his friends came to him, and they were all dressed up nicely, and they were happy. So he said, "Are you making fun of me? I'm in mourning over the fact that my field was like so terrible this year, and you're all dressed up and like in party clothes and everything. What are you celebrating about?" So he says, "We're celebrating that you have now become the Kohen. Beforehand, you were the balabais, you were the owner of the field, and you gave 10% to Hashem." Hashem al-Keichem Kohen, that Rebbe is going to bring down. Now what happened? You didn't give anything, so Hashem made you the Kohen. He kept the 900, and he gave the 100 to you. So therefore we're celebrating for you. You went up in the world. You became now a Kohen. So we're all dressed up in this fancy clothes. Base. So it says, King Gambusman, just like when it comes to the physical parnasa that a person has, that he has to make sure that the best he gives away to the Kohen, to the poor person, to the Nefesh Ho'elokis. Also when it comes to time, there's times of the day or time of my life that need to be devoted to Hashem, and time of the day or time of my life that I can do my own thing. So the best of those times, whether the best of the time of my life or the best of my day, that has to be given to Hashem. The first years of a person, he doesn't have to go out to work. He's supported by his parents usually. Therefore, he really doesn't have any reason to engage with the world. So therefore, those are the best years of his life. Those years have to be devoted to Torah, mitzvahs, and davening. Yeshem zmanim behem also kadem bavayis ha'olam. Came bebesh hashon. Yeshem me'achol b'hem Torah d'adam. Yeshem shabbos u'moyadim behem einay Torah. U'b'miyuchad b'roshanim v'aseres me'tshuva. When he's less involved in worldly matters. Yomim ben kayim kiruv ha'moyel ha'nitzutz. Hashem is very close to the neshama, which is called the spark of Hashem. So Hashem is very close to us then. It's a time that says in Shulchan Aruch that a person should take off time from what he would usually do, his mundane pursuits during Aser Simei Tshuva, and devote more time to Torah and davening and so on. So yesh evel adas gam kan kol chelav la'avaya when it comes to time. Yesh lahagdish la'Hashem es hareshis v'hamufchar shebezman hazman hamufchar v'aragosh shebechol yom umiyad lachar akima. He gets up from sleep. That's when he's calmest. That's when he doesn't have everything already on his head. The simple meaning is is the bowl that they would need the dough in, that they would prepare the dough. So Reishis means you give from the beginning of your dough, you give to the Kohen. But the Frierdiker Rebbe explains, Reishis arisei seichem as harishon shemin ha'arisa. Harisa can also mean a bed. Azman harishon shela'achar hakima min ha'mita titnu lavaya truma. That's what should be given away to Hashem. That's when I should daven. That's when I should learn, like the Maimers, like the Sikh is going to explain. The Ficha Shosh and the Dainu Ramdina Zuar Sabris Sidra Limud Yeshivas. When the Frierdiker Rebbe first came to America, and they were discussing about the time of day to teach kids in yeshivas. Ahmad HaRebbe b'toikev al kach, the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Rebbe's father-in-law, stood very strongly. She'ach v'rak limudei ha'kodesh yiskayim ha'boiker, v'limudei ha'chol yiskayim ha'machsa shniya sha'ayom. How come? For the very reason that we were talking about now. She'came ba'boiker, k'sha'amoyach nimtza b'menucha v'regua, was man ha'mutzach v'yoyser, k'psak ha'rambam kol chelav l'avaya. So therefore, since we have to give the best to Hashem, so in the morning is a time when the kids should be learning yeshiva. And all the things that I need to do to be able to make a living. So that is concerning children going to yeshiva. Children going to yeshiva, the first half of the day they should be learning Limudei Kodesh, and only the second half of the day they should be learning Limudei Kodesh. Now what about people that are already working for a living? They're already married, they already have businesses and so on. In mundane matters, in work, the beginning, right away, when I'm fresh in the morning, has to be for Hashem. ואחר כך ללמוד, כפי ההלכה שבבית הכנסת יש הולך לבית המדרש. It's halacha in Shulchan Aruch also that once I daven, I have to follow it with learning. ורק לאחר מכן לאכול פס שחרס to eat breakfast. שכן הצמח צדק פוסק שפס שחרס היא לאחר התפילה. That we do not eat breakfast before davening, and therefore, since it has to go after davening, and after davening he has something else it has to do, which is learning. You have to go from shul to learning. Nimtza comes out a pass Shachris, Barak Lachar Limud. And after we did all of that, we davened, we learned, we ate breakfast, I guess 16-hour fasts help get back to work quicker. Yes, Ladas, Sha'ikar Hi, HaToyra Vatfilah, V'Loiliyev Shakor Ba'esek, V'Lilmed Rak Perek Echad Shachris, Perek Echad Arvis, K'dei Lotzas Yidei HaShulchan Aruch. Loimar Milim Blisha Adam Yishmas Asher Oimer Blisha is Boinem B'Dvarim Shu Shemea. So when he's learning and he's davening, he should pay attention. And he should really be involved in what Chazal say, that a person should learn at least one perek of learning in the morning and one perek of learning in the evening. Meitav Azman, Meitav HaKoiches, Yagia HaRoish, Va'afilu Yagia HaRoish. It's supposed to be a hey, no? No. Va'afilu Yagia Kapayim, Tzrichim Le'nosim L'Toyro L'Tfilah. So his effort, what should be put in his energy and his effort, that should be in the davening and in the learning. Amram Namar L'Gavet Trumam, Sha'oleh Liyas Reishis Sheshira Nikar. It says like this, there's a halacha that when I give Truma, I can't just decide, Truma doesn't have a shear. Meiser has a shear, it's a tenth. Truma, a person technically can give any amount they want. What happens if I say, let's say I have, 100 bushels of wheat, and I'm going to give 99 bushels and a lot of the rest of the bushel. So I'm giving away most of it to Truma. So Chazal say, no, that doesn't work. It has to be Shi'aran Nikarim. Since it says Reishis by Truma, that means you have to see that there is a beginning and there is a rest. If you don't have Shi'aran Nikarim, if you don't have that the rest are recognizable, then it's not a Reishis from something else. It looks like you gave everything away. You have to give away a piece of it, and you should have others that's left over for yourself. So this is Allah by Truma. Top of the next page, the same thing when it comes to Meiser, it's supposed to be a tenth. You're not supposed to give 50%, you're not supposed to give 85%, it's supposed to be 10%. The takana, the chachamim in the city of Usha was that if a person wants to give away a lot for tzedakah or other mitzvahs, but he should not give more than 20% away, up to 20%. So again, in all of these things we see that even though I'm giving away the best for Hashem, but that doesn't mean that I'm giving it all away. There has to be stuff left over for me. So first of all, the Rebbe says that these limitations is only in a normal situation. So he says, so the Alter Rebbe says that if a person is giving tzedakah to improve his spiritual situation, not just for the mitzvah of tzedakah, but as part of tshuva, so just like when it comes to medicine, a person doesn't say, listen, my budget for medical bills this year has been X amount of dollars. What happens if a person has a medical problem? He's not going to say, it's not in my budget. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do the operation. I'm not going to pay for the medicine because it's not in my budget. No, if a person needs it, he needs it. The same thing if a person is giving tzedakah to fix up his nefesh. So even though normally there's a limit, like we said, you shouldn't give more than 20%, but if he needs it for atzolah, the way he says, to save his nefesh, so then he can give even more than that. But Ram, Inkan, Inyan Atzdaka, Lefichach, Af Kisharoi Vayoyim Mukdash La'esek, Varach Miyute L'Toiro T'filah, Mahavim Zois HaMiyut HaSa'ikir Shel Kol HaYoyim V'Lechein Tzarech U'liyas Chelev HaChelev. In other words, what the Rebbe is saying, regardless of how we translate it, is he giving a little in time, just like the Truma, he's giving a little, in the Meiser it's only 10 or 20%, but that 10 or 20%, or that 50th, for example, that he's giving to Truma, has to be the best. And that's the Rebbe saying. You're right, most of my day I'm working. Most of my day I'm doing things that are not openly holy. But the little amount of time that I do set away for holy things, that has to be chaylev. That has to be the best. That has to be the greatest. How do we have this? We need to have a whole attitude. The attitude of accepting upon myself oil malchus shamayim. Yad bekuma adam shenosu yomer moidan libkabolos oil. He recognizes that Hashem is the boss. But tzricha liyas ha'anacha shal kol chelav lavayim. He has to have this attitude that whatever I have the best, I'm giving to Hashem. Ka'omer, like we said before. That means literally that when he gives tzedakah and so on, he shouldn't just go ahead and say, I will give, I won't give. He has to have that type of attitude in his tzedakah, in his gashmis also. Now bring it back to our parsha. So we said that there's in the person there's a Kohen. The Kohen is a Nefesh Ho'elokis. So you have to give the Nefesh Ho'elokis something more than you give the rest. You need to devote more of your freshest and best to godly things, to kedusha things, than you would devote for normal things. Korach cholach al kunas adam, hu ton shein soirach losses kol chelav v'koyim, shekein kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim v'soich mavayim adutis nasu. Yesh na taina shafilu shloi v'shasi isik b'toira rea kol be'esorish kedeshari al kol asorish shchina. When the Chazal say that the Shechina rests upon 10 Yidden, it's not just when they're doing something holy. It's the other way around. The reason why we do something holy when 10 Yidden come together, and only then can we say Kadesh Baruch Hu, Clearest, all these things, it's because there is an inherent holiness when there's 10 people together. So the al kol be'asor shchina shari, on every 10 yidden the shchina rest, that is something that happens whether or not we're doing something holy. That's what the Korach is saying. What are you making a big deal about the Kohen? Every yid is part of this community that the shchina rests upon. Va'afli yachid yesh hari nefesh ho'elokis, and even if let's say he's not together with 10 other yidden, he's alone. Even he has a nefesh ho'elokis. Doesn't make a difference how low he is. By the Rosh Gomer, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya that by him the Nefesh Ho'elokis is in a way that's like higher than him. It's not something that's felt and internalized with him. According to this type of understanding that the Nefesh Ho'elokis is with every single Yid, even the Rosh Gomer, so therefore Korach said, Hashem is with every Yid. Why are the Kohanim so special? And then the Rebbe says there are people that call themselves Bali Torah, B'nai Torah. They're involved in Torah study. So they think that, they don't need the Kohanim and they don't need the Beis HaMikdash. We study Torah. That's all that matters. Kolshkin Bal Torah, Vadei Shemuter Loi Lasis Kol Shalibi Chafetz, Shari Torah Magino Matzla. The Torah protects and saves a person from any spiritual downfall. Like Chazal say, Aveda Mechaber Mitzvah, an Aveda can cancel out a mitzvah. But Ve'ein Aveda Mechaber Torah, so therefore the person that learns Torah thinks it's a free-for-all. I learned Torah, I don't have to be worried about anything. He could speak whatever, and the Torah will protect him. I'm curious what he means over here with Daven. Maybe in the original Sikh it's a little bit clearer what he's talking about.
Whatever.
That's it, just L'daber. What about Lassos? What's like after L'daber? Well, something maybe that I was referring to something particular. Anyway, Nemra Maimach Sidis, Shetainas of Pluktas Korach, Klapa Moshe, Hoy Bekach Sheton. We know tzaddikim are brought down in Kabbalah, their neshamas are a very, very high level. They come from the world of Atzilus directly down here into this world. All neshamas originally come from the world of Atzilus, but they have to go through Bri, Yitzir, Asir. But in the generation of the Midbar, he's going to say, all neshamas were on a level of neshamas Atzilus. Rak b'doris hamuchorim, later generations, you only had very few people that were neshamas d'atzilus. The Chazal called them a very great generation. It says that Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, I will take from your ruach and I will put it on the Shivim Skenim. That means the Shivim Skenim were on a similar level to Moshe Rabbeinu. So Moshe Rabbeinu was Neshama Atzilus, so the Shivim Skenim were also like Neshama Atzilus. Like he said, that the Dor in Midbar was a Dor Deya. Lefichach Tonu Anshe Koirach Kivim Shekulim B'Dargas Atzilus. Madua Tisnasul Shema Yesh Lis'alas L'Darga Rama Mizu. It's enough. I don't need to have anything more. Why do I have to give to the Kohen? I am great as I am. I don't have to look for anything greater. Bedugmas ha'amr kayam gam at tanis koirach ken kol anyom shoy b'shas tzitz Mitzrayim yeshnam gam la'acher mekain shekol mishatoyin shemacher shu bal Torah dai bekach v'intzorach b'yoyis mizah. The Rebbe says that these days also we have people that say we are Bali Torah. Since we're Bali Torah, that's enough. We don't have to have anything more than that. Klap is ois amr loy dai betala shekulat cheles ki mishtzorach b'tzitzis shetoichma yirav yizbatel. It says one of the things that Korach said as his complaint, or he was trying to make fun of Moshe Rabbeinu, is in the olden times when we knew the exact type of color and the dye of tcheles, they used to have one strand in the tzitzis was a tcheles color. So Korach said, what happens if you have a talus that's entirely made out of tcheles? You shouldn't need tzitzis because you have this very high level of it. That's the same thing like saying, we're Ben Torah, we're a Baal Torah, you don't need anything more. But that's not enough. You need to have the tzitzis, Moshe Rabbeinu said. Tzitzis shows the bittul, that's not just the general big deal, the makif of Torah, but it's a bittul and a yira that permeates. Another thing they said is, if you have a room or a house that's filled with Sifrei Torah, do you need to put a mezuzah on the door that has the two parshas of Shema and V'hoyim Shemoyah? And again, Moshe Rabbeinu said it needs to have the mezuzah on the door. And they laughed, they made fun. You have a whole house full of Sifrei Torah. Why do you need to have the mezuzah? Because by Shemolei Sfarim, top of page 36, Gam Odom. He is like a bias Molly Sfarim. He's a house full of Sifrei Torah. Why is he Chayv b'mezuzah? HaMezuzah kelel shtei Parshas Shema V'hoyim Shemoyah. The Parshas Shema Kosev V'ahavta. The Parshas V'hoyim Shemoyah Yira, because we talk about if you don't do what you're supposed to do, so then there'll be all the negative consequences. So you're talking about it's not enough to have Torah study. It's not enough to have a bias that's filled with Sifrei Torah. You need Ava Hashem. That's why Hashem Alkechem Chalavav Chol Nachshem Chol Meidecha. And you need to have Yira of Hashem. And these are crucial. That's why you need to have a mezuzah even on a house that's filled with Sifrei Torah. Zu mashmusa shal mezuzah. Ukashem shal mezuzah shemer sabayis chol sherboi. Kach gam bayis shemolis forim. Odom shesh loy Torah. Im ein loy Ava v'Yira. Geireya hadavar mitoyrasoi. So then his Torah is lacking. Mishum shayraisa v'loy dechilu v'rechim v'loy parchol ha'elad. The Zohar says, he translates it over here, Torah v'li yira v'ava eine parach shlomayla. The Rebbe explains in Tanya that love and awe of Hashem, ava v'yira, are like wings. And since the Torah that a person learns, he's learning in this physical world, and we want it to go upwards, what are the wings that bring it upward? That's the ava v'yira. Gam by Shemolis Forum Chayv Mezuzah. Ha'ava v'yira shoymreis as ha-Torah sheteiki tikuna. Rachmishi yirose kedem s'lo chachmasi, the Chazal say chachmasi miskayemez. V'chol ha'omer ein l'ala Torah, so now fil Torah ein l'ala. That means that Torah alone is not enough to take care of it. You need to have the Kohen. You need to have the Hagdosh. You need to have the giving it over kol chelav lavaya. You need to have the bittul. You need to have the avavir. See, today's Ayom, he speaks about it, that even in the Sha'oil, even in the grave, they thought they were alive. Normally, a person is put in the grave when they already passed away. You don't usually have both things together. Grave and life don't go together. Anoshim Shruyim B'Shoil Tachtis, Shkuyim B'Ra, V'Oimek Ra, V'Svurim Shem Chayim. Heim Toinim Shekulam Kedoshim, Shedchol Echad Neshama, Mesalach Hashem, V'Toichem Hashem. They say every Jew is holy. But they can be in the air, like we say in Yiddish. They're involved in the coarsest, lowest things. They say, what are you telling me what to do? Why are you telling me to do something different? I'm a holy Jew. Yes, you're a holy Jew, but you need to act it also. It's not called being alive while being in a grave. You can't be in the ground and say that you're holy. That's true. He's right. All Yidden are holy. Every Yid doesn't have shalakis. The person that we're talking about over here, yes, I feel a Torah. The Ramim calls us who shari b'shoil. Shekain mate elas b'Torah, sh'aTorah nimtzas b'makom echad v'hu b'makom acher. If a person is very knowledgeable in Torah, but he doesn't act in accordance with Torah, so in truth, the Torah is in one place, and he's somewhere else. Because it's not affecting him, it's not permeating his life. His hands are not acting in accordance with Torah. His mouth is not acting in accordance with Torah. You say to him, when a person is learning Torah, they're connected with Hashem's mind. And if a person that learns Torah is then involved in very low things, so he's schlepping Hashem into that disgusting place. What we were talking about before is that even when he's in the grave, he says, I'm alive, I'm Jewish. Here we're going to talk a different concept. Torah is called Torah's Chayim, and you're taking Torah, which is a living thing, and you're putting it into the grave. Hatruf alakach, matnas kuna, hakdashas meitav azman, meitav akoyach l'Torah l'tfilah. And from all three categories, like we brought before from the Rambam, min ha-mazn, min ha-levush, min ha-bayis, yesh limseres ha-reishis, v'ez ha-mufchar l'Hashem. V'achana klolus l'kach, yamiris moida'ani v'kabal soil miyadim akimah m'sheina. That's why it's so important that we say moida'ani as soon as we wake up, because we're right away setting the groundwork, we're setting the aside for the rest of the day. We know that the Kohanim have the special capability and schus to be able to bench either. Yivarecha v'ishmerecha, and the Chazal explained that what does the words Yivarecha v'ishmerecha hint at? The bonim of Imam. And we're also Zoichel Parach Mata Aaron. What's the significance that the Mata Aaron blossomed, like we mentioned at the beginning? Hamshocha ein nifsekes ad meheri yars dvore v'bola mata b'shkedim shoked ala toiv b'chol advoram atoivim k'viadorish b'gash l'meruchnis. It comes down quickly. It comes down in a diligent way. It comes down that the Hashbois, that's the whole idea Chassidus always speaks about, that Birchas Kohanim causes that anything that's above, that is good for us, should come down speedily. And that's why Mata Aaron, the fruit that it grew, was Shkedim, because Shkedim is the one that ripens the quickest. And by Aaron, it was even more miraculous. It was overnight, even though it wasn't even connected to the tree. So it all shows that when we devote ourselves to the Kohen, we have the Matnas Kuna. So what results is the Birchas Kohanim. The Brachas come down to us in a very quick way. Now, in the early years, that's an interesting thing. The way Lekutei Sichos came about was because the Rebbe demanded of the Yungelite and the Bochum to go on every Shabbos and speak in Shul. Not just on Talucha during Yom Tovim, but every Shabbos he wanted Yungelite to go speak in Shul. So the Yungelite, the Bochum, asked the Rebbe, perhaps we could have like schoida material what to speak. And from this developed Lekutei Sichos, where they would like write up something from the Fabrengens, they would give it in for the Rebbe to check and to be Magia, and then they would use that as material that they would tell over in different shul and different Bate Knesios. So here the Rebbe is actually referring to this. In other words, to take something from the Fabrengen to talk about it. So, let's say it was Shabbos Parshas Korach, like in this case. So in the middle of the day, the Rebbe had a Fabrengen. In the early years, it wasn't always even a Fabrengen at 1:30. Sometimes the Fabrengen started even earlier. It started 12:30, whatever. And the Fabrengen did not necessarily go all the way till Mincha time, especially already Korach, like summertime. So when the Fabrengen was over, so then the Bachrim in the light would have the material from the Fabrengen. They'd go right away and chazer over in shul. So the Rebbe is making reference to this. Nekudas parshasenu hi harei inyan shel vayikach Korach shecholok al tunas Aaron v'Tom kulam kedoshim kayem is tainis kulam kedoshim. It's true. Everybody's holy. Kol echad mesugal lifsak halacha k'ritzoyne. That's the problem. Once they say we're all holy, so they all say, so I can say what the halacha is also. Nobody's better than me. Kol echad poisik is hamuter v'sa'asa. Yesh eifel adas shezu hoise shitas Korach u'memenu nevas machloikis beinam lebein atzmon. The Rebbe points out that there was machloikis and amongst the Bnei Korach themselves. Because if you say everybody is the same, so then who's to say that anybody is wrong? I say like this, you say like this, he says a third thing. There's nobody to be machriya and say what's the final version. If you say it there's a kohen, if you say it there's a rav, if you say there's a poisek, so you have a disagreement, you go to the rav and you say, and the rav will tell you what the halach is. But if everybody is holy, so then there's a machloikis within Adas Korach. Like, and the Rebbe's Medayik, the famous question, machloikis she'enel shem shemayim zu machloikis Korach va'adasa. So all the Mefarshim speak about it. That when it says in Pirkei Avos, what's a machloikis she'enel shem shemayim? Machloikis Korach va'adasa. It should say machloikis Korach neged Arna Moshe, Korach va'adasa neged Arna Moshe. But it doesn't say that. It says machloikis Korach va'adasa because in the Eidah of Korach itself it was full with machloikis because there was no balabas, there was no one that could say anything more. What's the final rule? So then he says, Tzrichel is his bat was lebali Torah, le'elam sugolim. It's not just a person that learns Torah, but it's a master of Torah. Le'elam sugolim lifsak al piyat Torah. Ad k'dei kach she'apsak halacha shalem mashpia al mitzias ken yidua she'atorah sholetz al mitzias. Many places the Rebbe speaks about this, that when someone rules according to the laws of Torah, it can actually change the facts on the ground. So that's one point that we have to take from it. That a person needs to go to a Rav and he needs to go to someone that can paskin dinim, not decide halacha on their own. Another point that the Rebbe says, Ken yeshal kachas and parshaseinas ein yishudur b'yachsel matnas kuna kfi asporas haram kol chelu lavaya kishal dem noisen la'ani u'bekachun noisen la'Hashem. When a person is giving something to a poor person, it's considered as giving to Hashem. Like it says in the pasuk, Malve Hashem chaynen da. Someone that does kindness to a poor person, it's considered that he's giving a loan to Hashem. So when I give a poor person my best, it's exactly the same like I'm giving Hashem my best. All of Lasis Ma'muchar, when he's giving him food, when he's giving him clothing, the kappa-based tefillah, he also has to make the shul the best. Pirush hadavar sha'amufchar shebezman, hamufchar shebekoiches, hamufchar shebechol ha'shayach la'odam yeshlos la'Hashem. Hamufchar va'yocher la'odam, harei heim harei yelodam. All of it, losses la'Hashem as ha'yelodim, ves hamufchar shebezman, k'loimar es hashonim arashoyim yishulam. Those are what we have to give over to Hashem. Not when the kid grows up and then you're going to start to give him something, but you have to give it the best times of their lives, you have to give them to Hashem. Azai zoichu lebichus koyin, yivarecha b'bonim u'mamim, yishmerecha sha'amamim yinutzo letzrochim briim v'smeichim. After it says yivarecha, why did he have to protect you? Because once you have the money, the Rebbe explains the protection is that the money should only be used for simchas, should only be used for healthy things. A person can be rich, but he's not sure what his riches is going to be used for. Shekain kasher kasbei moitzi l'roifim harei hadroi hayoyosef sheyebarim shaloi yeloi adolarim l'roifim. It would have been better if he would have been poor, and he would have less dollars to give to the doctors than to be have a lot of dollars, but he has to spend it on doctors. So what does it mean after we say Yevarecha b'mamoin? We're saying Yishmerecha b'birchus Yishmerecha Yisha Kesev Yenutzel Tzrachim B'rim V'Smeichim. That what you're using the money for is to make a wedding. You're using the money for healthy things. You don't use the money Chas Shalom for negative things. V'asiyim of birchus Kohanim is Yosem L'Chas Shalom. Like Moshe Kadosh Baruch Hu Kli Amach Brochos Yisrael Allah Shalom Kloim Gam Kishem B'Chol Asher Taseh Shu Akli LeBrocha Hu Kli Muot Yeshna Inyan HaShalom Shu Machzik Brocha. We know that a person, we mentioned this before, the pasuk Berach Hashem Elokecha B'Chol Asher Taseh. A person needs to make a keli for the Brocha of Hashem. You have to do something. You can't sit home and just say Hashem will give me brachas. Sometimes a person doesn't have such kelim, doesn't have good kelim in Chol Shetasa and Muchitzich. He's working hard, and the money's not coming in. So the Rebbe says like this: even if the Kol Shetasa is a very small keli, but Shalom is going to be a big keli to be able to bring down and hold brachas. After it says V'yasem l'chas shalom, the pasuk says V'ani avorachem. When the Eibishter says I will bench, Tesvasei shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mendruba Le'ikar. It says when Hashem adds, it's more than the principle. When a person adds, it says you're giving 100, I'll give you another 10. So the addition is less than the principle. But when Hashem adds, you give 100, Hashem gives 200. That's the way Hashem's additions work. So we're giving to Hashem our matnas kuna. Hashem is the one that gives the brachas. And when Hashem is the one that gives the brachas, it's much more than the brachas that even the Kohanim are giving. When it says Ani Avorachem, who is Hashem bench? It says in the pasuk that the Kohanim should bench the Yidden in such a way. When it says, then Hashem concludes V'ani Avorachem. So one explanation is the Kohanim were giving a bracha to the Yidden, but who's benching them? Who's giving them a bracha? So Hashem says V'ani Avorachem. I'm going to bench the Kohanim. Another pshat in Ani Avorachem is not only will the Kohanim give the bracha to the Yidden, but Ani Avorachem, I will also give a bracha to the Yidden. So the Hesem la'amur Avorachem leKohen shemenafshem. He said before that in the person's nefesh there's the Kohen inside, his Nefesh Ho'elokis. So when it says Avorachem, I give the Nefesh Ho'elokis what it needs spiritually. Bracha beruchnius. He should enjoy Torah mitzvahs. He should have a geschmack, he should have the excitement about Torah mitzvahs. And then Brochos of Yisrael, that's another pshat Ani Avorachem. B'chol drochecha, meaning ubegashmis b'chol adorish, you should have it, amen, it should happen by everyone. Blameless.
Amen.